generation of kids is the first one growing up with the internet as we now know it. An internet of constant gamification, endless likes, hate speech and comparisons. Can our kids deal with it? Good evening, my name is Maja Mazurkiewicz and welcome to the Anatomy of Disinformation. The internet isn't going anywhere, so the real question is, how do we help children grow up with it, not inside it? And how does a developing brain respond to this kind of environment, one that's never switched off? Our guests like to say, a child's brain is like a construction site. A constant dopamine stimulation doesn't support the building process, but that's what social media delivers every second. So what can we do to make the construction site better? After all, the way children grow up today is the future we are all building together.
Klaudia Zakrzewska, psychologist, psychotherapist, and the founder of the ESTARE Institute. She works with families, teenagers, and adults, providing evidence-based treatment, mainly for ADHD, anxiety, and mood disorders. Her clinical practice is grounded in evidence-based medicine, utilizing cognitive behavioral therapy and acceptance and commitment therapy to deliver measurable results.
Klaudia, welcome and thank you so much for joining us today.
Hi Maya, welcome everyone. Thank you for having me here.
Our topic today is, well-being of children in the times of internet, and that's a big change that we're having right now. And you often describe child's brain as a construction site. So what does it mean when the child enters the online world?
Okay, I think this metaphor as a construction site is very important for every parent also to understand. So basically we will have, if we are looking at the kid's brain, we have all the basics, okay? But it's still under development. And basically what we need to understand is this part, which we call prefrontal cortex, is completely underdeveloped, especially when we are talking about the young kids. And it will be in this developing period until basically 21, 25 years old. So basically all the time that we are with our kids, we will have the smart person in front of us that is still work in progress, okay? And I think it's very important because that part is actually responsible for the critical thinking. So for making every decision that will actually distinguish what reality and fiction is. And I think that's the most important thing when we talking about the digital world, because digital world, even though it's on a computer or on a tablet, smartphone, it still feels real and it is perceived as a real. And I think that's the first thing that we need to understand and start working with. The brain as it is, it's very old, okay? We are having an access to digital media since 10, 15, 20 years. So it's very short period of time comparing to the whole history of humanity. But what is changing right now, it's changing really, really fast. And we need to understand that those kind of information that we receive from the phones and especially from the screens are really full of dopamine. And I think this is this kind of a neuron, one of the hormones that everyone is talking right now, because it's the one that is responsible for our attention and one that is actually responsible how we concentrate and how we focus and then how we motivate ourselves actually to do some other stuff. And I think when we are talking about the digital world, the word of dopamine, how it affects our brain comes up very often, right?
So how parents and adults can actually minimize this dopamine flow to the children's brains?
Okay. I think it's a question that everyone asks not only about our kids, but we also ask about ourselves, right? So that would actually lead me to first advice or first thing that I would consider is if I want to control and influence the digital behaviors of my children, I really need to be aware of my own digital behaviors. And I think that would be the first step, because the first thing that is working is like social modeling. So kids will copy the behaviors of their parents. So if I am a parent and I spend all my day on my phone, it's very hard to expect from my kids not to do it. Okay, so I think that would be the first thing that I would notice is how do I, as a parent, actually use digital media, my smartphone, my computer, and what message and what like picture I show to my kid. That would be the first one. The second option I would think about is like, do I actually understand how those algorithms and like mechanisms are behind the Facebook, Instagram, all those big social media platforms work? Do I understand what they are actually showing to my kid and in what kind of a content my kid is involving? So first, the thing like, do I understand the mechanism? And the second is, do I understand the content that my children are actually watching and perceiving and are in contact with?
There was a famous case with Peppa the Pig, where certain parts of episodes were not original, but were rather like coming from disinformation actors.
I think that case actually shows us that sometimes we have a trust to one of the cartoons, one of the characters, like Peppa the Pig. It's everywhere. Everyone who has a little child knows Peppa the Pig. It's very hard to actually go through childhood right now not knowing Peppa. So we have a character that is very trustworthy, that usually the cartoons are like, okay, they are quite enjoyable both for kids and parents. But then if we give a screen like a YouTube or other platform that actually works on those algorithms and has those like short videos that work on the dopamine loop, that kind of algorithm that shows us even more and more and more videos based on the high arousal emotions like excitement, surprise, and so on and so on, we might see that our kid is like, oh, they are looking for Peppa Pig. But at the end, it's just some other creators, not always having good intentions, using the Peppa Pig brand in order to actually show some other message or some other video, some other content. And I think this is super risky. This is like using Peppa Pig a little bit like a Trojan horse, right? So something that buys your trust, but then can actually attack you from the backside. Very dangerous thing. In that sense, it even shows like sometimes we trust some content and some characters and some cartoons, but we are not really sure at the end if it's really the material that we want our kids to watch. So what I would say, okay, you're tired, you want to give your kid a screen time, but be with your kid when you're doing that. Coexist with it, co-watch it with your kid. Also, I think it's very important for parents to understand that leaving the children alone with the whole digital world, it's actually not really safety. And we wouldn't leave our kids like alone at the street. We wouldn't leave them alone in a shopping mall, right? Especially like if we are having kids that are like, 7, 10. We would stay there with them, right? So why would we leave them alone in a world that is actually even more sometimes unexpected?
What are the biggest risks in terms of development of kids and their brains if they're gonna just go onto the social media and internet?
We are very smart species, okay? So we adapt very fast. But that also means that the brain of a kid of a child will adapt very fast to fast-pacing world that is actually like driven by those high arousal of emotions, like fear, like anger, surprise, excitement. All of those might influence the criticism and logical thinking of the brain of a young person. I think that's the first thing. Another one, it actually leads to addiction. So being not able to actually function without that high spectrum of emotions. And I think that's the second risk. The third risk, I think it will, and I think we see it a little bit, like there is not, let's say, that many data, but it's already some scientific data that is showing that the attention span is actually getting smaller and smaller or shorter. So we will have kids, like we will have people that cannot focus, cannot spend too much time doing, especially those things that are boring, usually, or not very exciting, right? And I think at the end, it also leads to a lot of difficulties in a kind of a social context in real life. Because as good as it seems in a digital world, when like you press play and it's fun, and after fun there is more fun, and after more fun there is more fun. Or even like in a digital world, there you might do something bad, but then there is no consequences. There is another video coming and showing up, right? But this is not how the real world is functioning. And I think this is also a very big threat for the society, because we are not teaching the skills of how to actually regulate and behave in a social context where there is like every behavior actually leads to the consequence. And then the body actually needs to balance itself all the time. Nobody really can be very long in a high excitement, high arousal state, right? Like we don't even expect from ourselves to always have fun. Like it has to stop, because we actually need to calm down, right? So being always like pumped up, it's not good for us at all. It's actually dangerous, right?
Klaudia, thank you so much for pointing it out, showing the danger, but also showing very easy steps that we can all do to support our child. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you very much for that conversation.
Now, let's examine how social media phenomena affect minors, their mental health, personal development, and society at large.
According to research by Domo, a business intelligence and data experience platform, almost 140 million Facebook and Instagram Reels were played every minute of the day in 2024. On the same timescale, around 3.4 million videos were viewed on YouTube, and TikTok users uploaded 16,000 videos. It's impossible to keep up with the barrage of content, and inevitably failing to do so creates a feeling known as FOMO.
This is short for the fear of missing out. These are the messages and everything that appears on Instagram and TikTok. The saying that you should do more, you should stand up and enjoy life right now. Everyone is doing that, everyone agrees, with a very still developing sense of belonging in children and teenagers. This can be very stressful and harmful.
Peer group inclusion is easier for better-looking children, and built-in filters on apps like Instagram are there to help, at least seemingly so.
That creates really unrealistic standards that can further in life promote a very low self-esteem and some dissatisfaction with the body. It's very common for teenagers to compare themselves to others.
Comparison is the pull in competitive computer games, but they too can negatively impact children's health.
Those games which have a very quick reward, and also those games in which the person is competing with each other, they have a more chance of becoming gaming disorder and a problem gaming.
We have this dynamic that's called us versus them dilemma, and that actually creates in the children's mind the black and white thinking, that either someone is good or is bad, either is with us or against us. I don't know, countries like Russia use the aggression and the very controversial content to promote those kind of behaviors. It appears in memes, in jokes, in those traumatizing stories about aggression. And furthermore, the children kind of can justify in future the aggression and lowers the empathy.
FOMO, unattainable beauty standards, the tribal mindset, all of them have far-reaching consequences.
I would start with critical thinking, the ability to actually stand and look at yourself in a mirror and actually ask yourself a question: what do I think? How do I stand with that statement? Do I agree? They need to see who they are. They need to go with that crisis by themselves. If a child actually does not face this identity crisis, he wakes up in the morning and he does not know what to believe because he has a lot of feelings.
According to the US National Institute of Health, up to 95% of youth ages 13 to 17 report using a social media platform, with more than a third saying they use social media almost constantly. Among children aged 8 to 12, nearly 40% use social media.
Many children today struggle not because they are weak, but because they are overwhelmed. Loneliness, no sense of purpose, and the pace of modern life often leaves them lacking real attention and a space to process emotions. So what kind of support do children actually need? And how do we talk to them in a way that makes them feel seen, safe, and understood? Let's talk about that with our next guest.
Maria Flak, psychologist. She holds a master's degree in psychology from John Paul II Catholic University in Lublin, Poland. She gained professional experience working in foundations, private practices, and a regional family support center. Maria Flak has worked with families, children, and adolescents, and conducts workshops for youth and adults, particularly in stress management, active listening, and leadership skills.
Maria, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today. We are talking about children, how they react to what they see online and how it also influence them, right? And you work with kids.
Yes.
Do you think they may have more trust and they kind of feel that they are their friends than the people in the real life?
Yes, I for sure, because sometimes it's because they are seeing someone who's looking really nice, who has a good sense of humor, who has a really sense of fashion and everything like that, and they are thinking like, okay, so I'm start to looking at them as my authority, but also I have a connection with them because I'm seeing on every day what she is doing because of the social media, and on the Instagram I see all her day. So I try to it's creating a really dangerous bond between children and the influencer, and it's not real, but children believe that they have really connection with each other, like maybe even friendship, and they don't understand it's not my friend, it's just a character. It's like a fake character, only it's not real.
But they can believe those characters in everything they say.
Yes.
And
yes.
Sometimes they're contaminated by bad actors, right?
Yes, like also if someone like influencer, musician, actress would say anything, or this is also a marketing, so they saying you need to have this thing in your closet, you need to have this new iPhone or something like that. They're believing like, okay, she's have it, so I need to have also in my life because I need this. And this is very important because in psychology it's a halo effect, and we are start to thinking that everything what they say is real, and we need to have everything that they're having.
And how it affects them, their well-being?
That's a fact because they doesn't have their own opinions, because they are really afraid to being on the not being on this group. So they are trying to think instead of thinking what I think about that, what's my opinion. I'm thinking, okay, that influencer said that, so this is my opinion. And also that can create even problems with aggressions, because sometimes the children start to say things that it's not appropriate to their age, because they are thinking, so for example, video games, a lot of YouTubers playing video games online live and saying not saying some bad things, and after that children start to replace that and saying that in the real life, don't understand what doesn't even mean.
So the violence sometimes they see in the gaming world, they can feel that it doesn't matter whether they do it also in the real world?
I think that children doesn't understand what they are saying, because they are saying like things that their influencer said, so they are not understand what I'm exactly saying. So I think it's like they don't understand exactly.
And how, again, all of that can influence their future?
I think the most dangerous topic is that I said earlier, they doesn't have their own opinion. They doesn't understand what I should think about something. They just replaying what others said. What's other doing.
And how about relationships? Because that's also one of the key things for us humans.
Yes, as you said earlier, they start to think that influencers are my friends. So that's really not helping them with creating friendship in the real life. Because in the real life, sometimes we fight, sometimes we have an argument, sometimes we don't agree with our friends. And internet just sometimes, not always, of course, but sometimes teaching young people, if you don't agree with someone, you can be really angry at them, and you can show violence. And sometimes children in the school, when they have an argument with someone, using really bad words and like letting their emotions be stronger than this friendship.
And we also hear quite a lot about bullying, and that bullying also is happening in the internet.
Yes, it's cyberbullying, so it's like a bullying strict in the internet. It's because people thinking like on the internet nobody know who I am, so people are a lot more confident in a bad way. So I think this is really really dangerous, because like 20 years ago someone wouldn't say something to his friends at school, and right now he can possibility to take a phone and write it, and nobody would know like who write this. So we feel like, okay, so now I can say anything and nobody can do anything about that.
And for the parents, sometimes they may not realize that their kid, for example, is either a victim or a bully, right?
Yes.
So how they can connect better and see that something wrong is happening with their kids?
So the most important thing is to being open and try to see if I, as a parent, doesn't see any small things that change. For example, maybe my child is more aggressive, is more aggressive for siblings or for parents, or I heard from the teachers that something's changed. Another thing, maybe the first signs of anxiety, maybe my children is more close and doesn't want to do things that he was really open to do earlier. Like, for example, my child always wants to dance, and the dance classes was the best time of the week, and right now she's like, oh mom, I don't want to go, it's not interesting anymore, something like that. And of course sometimes it can change, but something when we see that nothing is interesting for them and they just want to go to their rooms and sitting watching television on internet on their phones, this is signal for us that something's happened.
And it's important to build this awareness, right?
Yes,
and
not
also
judging, yeah.
And also strengthen the relationship with the kids, right? In the real life.
Yes.
Thank you so much, Maria, for joining us today. Now, let's see what we can do to protect children from digital manipulation.
View content with them and talk to them about what you see. Don't leave children alone with algorithms. Teach them emotional awareness. Limit autoplay and repetition-based content loops. Talk often, ask questions, and listen without judgment. Child safety online isn't just about screen time. It's about how their emotions, habits, and reality are shaped in the future.
Children don't need a perfect digital world. They need adults who help them understand the emotions they feel in that world. Screens will change and platforms will come and go. What will stay is our children's inner world. So let's teach them to keep calm and think deeply.